Hi everybody, welcome. It's Manik once again, and I'm back. And my today's topic is the good person of Setzuan, though it has another title like that of the good woman of Setzuan, and it is written by Bertolt Brecht. He is a German writer, poet, playwright, and theatrical reformer. Now, in that video lecture, I will give you a brief lecture on Brecht. Actually, it should be on, okay. Then his theatrical invention like that of epic theater, alienation effect, and then some key characters regarding the play. After that, scene-wise summary and key themes of the play. First of all, Bertolt Brecht, whose full name was like that, Eugen Bertolt Friedrich Brecht. He was born on 10th February 1898 and in a particular place named Augsburg in Germany, and died on 14th of August 1956 in East Berlin. His parents were Bertolt Friedrich Brecht. In childhood, Brecht is known as Eugen, and his mother Sophie Nevrezi. And most of his childhood life was influenced by his mother, and due to his mother's influence, Brecht knew the Bible, a familiarity that would have a lifelong effect on his writing. When Brecht was 16, there was First World War, and Brecht was nearly expelled from school in 1915 for writing an essay against that battle, that First World War. In 1925, Brecht also saw two films, and those two films, one by Charlie Chaplin and that named Gold Rush, and then Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin. Those two films provided him a lot of inspiration, lot of energy to proceed further in his life. And after that, Brecht developed the combined theory and practice of his epic theatre by synthesizing and extending the experiments of Erwin Piscator and Zilbt Merrill-Holt. Now let's discuss about his key works. First of all, his most important, the Threepenny Opera. It was in 1928, then Mother 1932, The Seven Deadly Sins 1933. A few names I have mentioned here like that of The Seven Deadly Sins, then The Duchess of Malfi, Antigone, Coriolanus, Don Juan. All these are the works that was a rewritten work, and that means these works are done by somebody else. Then it is a kind of a theatrical inventing work by Bertolt Brecht. But today's topic, the good person of Setzuan, it was in 1943, and the last one, that the modern theater, or is the epic theater. It is a kind of a theatrical invention by him. Next, what is epic theater? Epic theater is a form of didactic drama. Didactic drama in which some kind of moral lesson has been given, and this kind of theater presents a series of loosely connected scenes. That means the scenes are not in order, they are in a haphazard manner. Then the epic theater avoids illusion of drama. That means whenever we went to see a film, we are very much infatuated, very much interlinked with the drama and the storyline. So in that theatrical form, Bertolt Brecht just breaks such kind of illusion. Okay, then epic theater often interrupt the storyline. That means while proceeding the storyline, there will be some kind of a break, and that breaking, that blocking is very much necessary in epic theater. And especially the characters address directly with audience, and with your analysis, argument, or documentation. That means while continuing the story, the characters directly talked with the audience, and in one play, and it was written by Gradesaver named Ibadan. A character came in front of the audience and said, "Hey audience, go and have a cup of tea, and then turn back, then come back." So it's a kind of direct talking. It's a kind of dialogue, and in epic theater there must be other kind of things like that, analysis, a kind of situation in which the character speaks about the upcoming plans and the actual mental condition, just like that of soliloquy or monologue. Okay, now next, the playwright reflects contemporary social realities on the stage. The most important thing is that the playwright did not try to put some ancient topic, or rather a classical topic. Rather, they put the then reality of the society, which is prevalent rather. And the playwright always wished to block their emotional responses, and for that he used a particular effect, and he calls it as alienation effect, and it is used to block or to hinder the tendency to emphasize with the characters, as in the plays of Sophocles, of Shakespeare and others. That means whenever we went to the theater and we are at the end of the play, we are left with a kind of a feeling, and that kind of feeling, as Aristotle describes, that is catharsis. That means pity and fear. Whenever we observe a tragedy, there is kind of a feeling at the end about the tragic hero. So that kind of feeling was completely cut off by Bertolt Brecht, and Bertolt Brecht and his companions thought that this is not the actual thing to the audience. Audience should observe it, that this is actually a play and their life is actually completely different from it. So they need to learn the lesson from it. Rather, they need not to interlink with it. Next, what is alienating effect? That alienating effect is also known as distancing effect. I know you can understand it. Distancing means creating the distanciation from the play and the audience. That's why distancing effect, or it is commonly known as V effect. Actually, there is a common term in German with that distancing effect or alienating effect. So that's why from that particular word it came up like that, V effect. And then Bertolt Brecht first used the term in an essay on alienation effects in Chinese acting. So just remember the name. In that essay, he put the concept of alienation and very term also. And in these, the playing in such a way that the audience was hindered from simply identifying itself with the characters in the play. That's already discussed, that audience need not to interlink with the character's life with his or her life. Okay, and here artist never acts as if there were a fourth wall besides the three surrounding him. That means their characters and of the play in front of audience did not feel that they are performing a kind of things that is completely out of the world, and while performing the acts, they could not, or they cannot talk with, they cannot share the dialogues with the audience. Rather, they thought that it is merely a play, and they can interlink, they can talk with the audience, and by that they can motivate them also. So that's a kind of effect that's called alienating effect. Next, about the title of the play, The Good Omen of Setzuan. The play's title is often translated as The Good Omen of Setzuan rather than Setzuan. But you need to understand that the particular name Setzuan, that is a province in that German it's in Chinese city. Okay, it is called Setzuan, but it is a province kind of thing. But actually, Setzuan, the name Setzuan is a kind of city. And according to the translator, that means the translator of that book, The Good Omen of Setzuan, it was done by Eric Bentley. He said that Brecht identified the location of the play as a city, so that's where, without using Setzuan, it should be used as Setzuan. So that's the title. Next, and if we talk about the book, The Good Omen of Setzuan, it was written by Bertolt Brecht, and it was translated from a particular play in German, and it is named Der Gute Mensch von Setzuan. Okay, and it was done by him and with his two companions. First one is Margaret Stephen, and the second one Ruth Berlew, and it was done during the time period of 1938 to 1943. And after that, The Good Omen of Setzuan is an example of non-Aristotelian drama. Actually, Aristotelian drama has that feeling, that catharsis at the end of the play. So that's why Brecht's play is completely different from it. So that's why it is called non-Aristotelian drama. And that a form, that means that as non-Aristotelian form, a form made popular by Brecht himself, and he defined in its notes and essay particularly entitled on a non-Aristotelian drama. So just if you have the time, if you have the eagerness to read it, just go through that book. And Brecht originally dedicated the play to his wife Helen Weigel. Okay, Helen Weigel was his wife, and however, by the time it premiered, that means it staged, Helen was too old to play the role of Sandy. Okay, now next about the key characters in the play. The first of all, we have found the character of Wang. Wang is a water sailor, and we find that in search of the goodness in character, Wang was the first person who met three gods. Okay, but according to them, Wang is not completely a good character. Now the next character, almost the protagonist of the play and the central character of the play, is Senti, and she has another character, and she has rather disguised character, and that's named as Suita. Okay, we will discuss more about her in the summarization of this text. Mrs. Sin is the tobacco shop, that means the tobacco shop's owner, rather former tobacco shop owner, from whom Senti bought the tobacco shop, and she is a kind of a very opportunity seeker kind of person, but throughout the play, as the character developed, a new kind of change is seen in his character also. The next character is unemployed man, and there are almost 15 or more characters, and this unemployed man is a kind of a very minor character. He comes to the tobacco shop and asks for a free cigarette. And then we have a character like that of Carpenter's character is very excellently portrayed in the play, we will see. And then Mrs. Mitsu is the landlady. Okay, now Young Sun is a kind of a unemployed pilot who lost his pilot job, and now in a mood to get that job, and he's like that of the person whom Senti wants to marry. Now the next character is Old Whore. Okay, and other characters like that of a policeman, and then a old man and old woman. They play a significant role in Senti's life. We will learn from the text. And then Mr. Soup, who by profession is a barber, and his character is also very much significant because though at the outset we see him as a very vile person, as a very arrogant person, but at the end we will come across that Actually, he is a very perfect man. And then Mrs. Young is the mother of that young son, that man, that unemployed man with whom Senti wants to make a relationship. Then the three gods. So these are the characters. Now let's go to the summarization of the text. The text has been particularly arranged in such a way. Around 15 scenes are there, but if we try to find out that at the end, you will see that number 10. But between them, we will find the sub scenes like that of 3A, 6A, 7A. So that's how it becomes 15 or more scenes. But at the beginning there is also a introduction kind of thing, that prologue, and at the end there is an epilogue rather. Okay, so let's discuss what is in the prologue. In the prologue, we see the play begins with a monologue, and it was done by the character Om. He is the water sailor, and he explains to the audience that he has heard that a few of the highest ranking gods are on their way to the city of Setzuan. They have heard the people of the world complaining about life, so they are coming to deal with it. He is waiting at the gate of the main city to greet them when they arrive. Soon, the three gods appear, and Om recognizes them immediately. And Om tries to find them a place to stay, but everyone keeps rejecting him. Finally, Senti, a prostitute, agrees. Before they leave the next morning, Senti asks them how to live a good life and still make ends meet. They have no answers for Senti's question. Then Senti complains to them that she cannot afford such life living in this hidden reality. Then the gods decide to give her money, and they explain they are only paying the money as a hotel bill. Okay, so that's how the prologue ends, and the actual scene number 1 begins like that. Scene 1 begins with a monologue by Senti. She is explaining to the audience that after the gods gave her money, she bought a tobacco shop from Mrs. Sin. After that monologue, Mrs. Sin enters, and she starts demanding that Senti give her some rice and money. By the end of the scene, Senti has been made to feel guilty and help an entire family in addition to Mrs. Sin. After that, a carpenter enters and demands $100 silver for the shelves he installed in the shop, while Mrs. Sin, the former owner, owned the shop. When Senti asks him to have patience, he starts to take the shelves back. The wife suggests that the wife of that earlier coming family suggests that Senti let her cousin settle the affair when he arrives. So with the suggestion of the wife, Senti created another kind of a personality here and discovered a cousin. After that, when Mrs. Mitsu, the landlady, demands references from the Senti, and since Senti has none, she goes along with the wife's lie about her cousin, who actually does not exist. She names him Sweeter, and the wife, the husband, and nephew all chime in to support her lie. That's how scene 1 completed. Now, the scene number 2. In scene number 2, it begins with the arrival of Sweeter. It is just Senti who disguised as a man. He fools the family that has been staying in the tobacco shop, even though they know they invented the character. He tells them to leave and bargains with the carpenter about the price of the shelves and gave him only $20 silver rather than $100, and also with Mrs. Mitsu about the rent she is demanding. That's how the scene 2 goes on. And then scene 3. Scene 3 begins with young son, and he is described as a young man in rags, and he is contemplating about hanging himself in a park. He is an unemployed pilot. Senti enters and notices that he is about to hang himself with a rope, and then immediately it starts raining. Senti takes shelter under the tree with the man Yongsan, and they are immediately infatuated with each other. And that's how the scene number 3 ends. In scene number 3, we see that Ong is asleep in the sewer pipe where he lives. The gods appear to him, and he reports that he had seen Senti, and that she is still good. She proved it to him when she bought his water, even though it was raining on that particular day. He tells the gods that Senti loves someone, and that assumedly Yongsan, and that she is doing good deeds all the time. However, it is clear to the gods that her good deeds are unsustainable. When Ong tells them about her cousin, especially Sweeter, they get angry that he has not paid the carpenter what he actually ought, and say he must never visit Senti again. And then scene number 4. Scene 4 begins with an altercation between Mr. Supu the barber and Ong, who has been trying to sell water to Supu's customer. Supu chases Ong out of his shop and hits his hand with a hot curling iron, and as a result it burns it badly. Many people witness it, but when Senti returns and asks if they will be witness for him, they say no. The old woman who owns the carpet shop next door with her husband offers to loan Senti $200 silver so that she can pay her rent. And then, after the period, Mrs. Young, and she is Yongsan's mother, enters and tells Senti that her son has been entered with the offering of a job and from the director of the airfield in Peking, but that he needs to pay $500 for it. And at that particular time, Senti pledges to try to help Yongsan, though as she was in the disgrace of that Sweeter, to help his sister he promised. And that's how the scene number 4 also came to an end. Scene number 5. Yongsan enters and interacts with Sweeter, having no idea he is actually taking to his he is actually in conversation with his lover Senti. He demonstrates that he has no interest in Senti's financial well-being or her ability to pay the old couple back. Okay, he just wants to get a Peking to fly again. After Sweeter has agreed to sell the tobacco shop, Yongsan reveals that his plan is to betray Senti. Mr. Supu enters and tells Sweeter that he would like to offer Senti the run of some cabins on his property and other gifts so that she can continue being kind to everyone. And then Ong and the policeman enter, and Sweeter betrays Ong, though tells the truth in saying that his cousin, that Senti, was not present at the time of the assault with the curling iron. After that, Yongsan returns, and at that particular time, Mr. Supu tells him that Sweeter that he and Senti are about to announce their engagement. Just then, Senti emerges from the back room. When Yongsan reminds her of how he loves her, though it was a kind of false love, we know in the scene number 4. She chooses to ignore the horrible things he said about her, and Senti is very strangely agrees to marry him. And that's how scene number 5 also ends. In scene number 5a, we see that Senti explains to the audience that the old woman who had given him the money had to ask for her $200 back, since the anxiety of having loaned them made her husband ill, and she said she would give her that money. And that's how scene 5a ends. In scene number 6, it is set in the private dining room on the upper floor of a cheap restaurant in a poor section of the town. Senti is there with her wedding guests. Young-son and Mrs. Young, his mother, are removed from the crowd and have a secret conversation in which Young reveals to his mother that Senti had said she cannot sell the shop for him because of the loan from the old couple, and he says to her mother that he does not want to marry Senti now. Without the rest of the money, Young-son will not marry her. They decide to wait another 15 minutes for Sweeter. At this point, Senti tells Young-son that Sweeter will not bring the $300. That means Young-son once said that we will accept or we will marry you, or I will rather marry you with that $300. I will leave that $200 for that old woman, since he told her that Young-son bought only one ticket to Peking. And that's how revealing that she knows about the previous conversation he had with her cousin. Then Young-son shows her 2 tickets. He tells her that they will have to leave his mother behind. However, the wedding has been postponed too long and the priest leaves, followed by all the other wedding guests. Scene number 6a. The gods visit Ong in a dream again, and he asks them to intervene in Senti's life, but the gods refuse to do that. Scene number 7. And it opens with Mrs. Sin and Senti. They are taking the washing of the clotheslines. Mr. Supu enters and hands Senti a blank check, explaining that he wants to support her so she can continue being a good woman. Senti feels her belly and realizes that she is in fact pregnant. Og enters with one of the carpenter's starving children. Senti reveals to Ong that she is pregnant, but asks him not to tell Young-son. The wife and husband, who had previously taken advantage of Senti, enter dragging tobacco sacks. Senti agrees to put them in the back room. Senti leaves and returns dressed as Sweeter. Sweeter says that all the people may only stay at Supu's cabin if they work for Senti. Mrs. Midju enters, and Sweeter tells her that he has decided not to sell the shop after all. As Sweeter leads the group of new workers back to Supu's cabin, Mrs. Sin realizes that Senti and Sweeter must be the same person. Scene number 7a. It takes place in Ong's sewer. He tells the gods that he has had a nightmare about Senti and asks them to help her, but once again they refuse, and they are saying that helping Senti would only create more problems and would be too much work for them. After that, in scene number 8, we will see that many time has been passed. Mrs. Young reveals this to the audience, explaining that Sweeter has given her son new motivation and a job in the tobacco factory. By now, he has been promoted to foreman. After that, in scene number 9, more times have already passed, and now Suita is quite fat because Senti, who is within him, is pregnant. Mrs. Sen tells him that the old couple has lost the carpet shop because the payment of the 200 silver dollars came too late. Then she reveals to Suita that she knows he is the same person as Senti. That means he is pregnant. That means Suita is pregnant because within him his actual identity Senti lives. After that, 6 months nearly passed. Om enters and reveals Senti has been at home for long this 6 months. In front of Yongsan, he tells Suita that Senti is pregnant. After that, Suita leaves and goes into the back room and sobs loudly. Yongsan overhears and thinks that it is Senti. This eventually leads to Suita's arrest, and concerning Senti's mysterious disappearance. After that, in scene 9a, it takes place in Ong's den. The gods visit him there for the last time. They are clearly distressed and fatigued. They set off to find Senti to make sure she stays good. She is their only hope. And we are at the end. Scene number 10. Scene number 10 is set in a courtroom. The policeman introduces the judges, who are the 3 gods. After testimonies for and against him, Suita begins to cave in and tells the judges to clear the courtroom so that he can make a confession. When the courtroom is cleared, Suita reveals to the gods that he recognizes them and that he is in fact Senti. After she has explained why she had to take these measures, the first god chooses to be in denial about it. He says that Senti is still good, though the other 2 gods insist that he did not hear a word she said, and that he is ignoring the fact that she committed bad deeds while disguised as Suita. The gods exit, and singing the trio of the vanishing gods on the cloud, as Senti's cries for help interrupt them. And that's how the play ends with a sad note. But Bertolt Brecht added the epilogue after the rest of the play. It can be spoken either by Senti or by Wong. In the epilogue, it is acknowledged our nasty ending was slipped up on us. The play has ended with no satisfactory conclusion, and it must be frustrating to the audience. To the audience, it's implored to write the happy ending of the play. They must figure out for themselves how to reconcile goodness in a world where it apparently cannot exist. And that's how the play completely ended. So in that summarization of the text, I will suggest you to pause the video and just go through the lines which I have mentioned in every part of the scenes, every part of the plays. Now let's discuss some key themes in the play. First of all, the most and the eponymous theme is goodness, which is in the title also. That means throughout the play, there is a kind of constant search for that goodness. But actually, in a world, the world which is so much corrupted, it can't be expected to find that goodness. The next character is suspicion of others. Almost all the characters are very much suspicious about others' identity, and it is revealed also in the story. Then the theme of alienation. That means most of the characters especially Senti suffers this kind of mental situation of that loneliness or alienation. And then another theme is that of music. Music is as at the core or at the heart of the play. Almost all the characters express their own emotion, self-feeling through their music. After that, we have seen another theme like that of love as a weakness. Yeah, that theme is also at the very outside and at the middle, at the end, almost everywhere. That means here love has been sought as weakness. With that love, that character young son betrayed Senti. Then we have patriarchal capitalism, and that theme very much discussed when we have seen that Senti realizes that it is very much impossible for him to control her own soul, and that's why she had chosen rather that patriarchal self, that means the self of Sweeter. Then we have historical materialism. It is very famous. As you know, a society's morality is very much determined by its economic system. So here, materialism or thinking about the benefit without any kind of love has been discussed. Then at the end, it is also a kind of similar, it's kind of copy of that line. So I'm not giving it 1 second. So music is already given. So that's how the play ends. Thank you and have a great day.